Okay, so what if I told you that the exact same skills an FBI agent uses to talk down a kidnapper could help you get a raise, or, a better deal on a car, or even just get your kids to finally go to bed? It sounds kind of crazy, right? But that's the whole idea behind this incredible book, Never Split the Difference, by Chris Voss. He was the FBI's top international kidnapping negotiator, and he's basically saying that these life-or-death tactics, they work in our everyday lives too. So let's get into it.
Just imagine hearing those words. That's the call Chris Voss gets. But here's the crazy part. The people on the other end of the line, they weren't terrorists. Nope, they were Harvard law professors. And this was a mock negotiation, basically a test designed to trip him up. And, well, this one single role play, it would end up changing everything we thought we knew about persuasion. And this really sets up the central conflict, doesn't it? On one side, you've got the FBI guys. Their playbook was written in the real world, in situations where if you make a mistake, people die. It's all street smarts, gut instinct, and hard-won experience. And on the other side, you've got the titans of academia at Harvard. These are the people who literally wrote the textbook on how to negotiate. So you've got this epic showdown, the field agent versus the Ivy League professor. So this brings us to Section 1, the FBI versus Harvard, a new set of rules. Because in that big showdown, Voss completely threw out their rulebook. He wasn't arguing facts and figures. He wasn't haggling. He pulled out a totally different set of tools, and it left these brilliant professors completely baffled. They lost. And that was a huge wake-up call, right? It was the first real sign that maybe, just maybe, the old way of doing things was just plain wrong. So what was this new way all about? Well, it's a complete 180 from what everybody was teaching. For decades, the standard playbook, the Harvard way, was built on one big assumption, that people are rational, that you can just sit down and logically work out a problem. But Voss's experience in the field taught him the opposite. His approach starts with a much more honest truth. We are emotional, kind of irrational beasts. So the real goal isn't to find some logical win-win. It's to figure out what emotions are really pulling the strings.
And what's so cool is that there's actual science to back this all up. It comes from the work of a psychologist named Daniel Kahneman, who actually won a Nobel Prize for this stuff. He said our brains have two operating systems. You've got System 2, which is our slow, logical, doing your taxes brain, but then there's System 1. That's the fast, emotional, gut-feeling brain. And guess which one makes most of our decisions? Yep, System 1. So what the FBI figured out is that the secret is to talk directly to that impulsive, emotional brain.
So here's the big takeaway, the absolute core of it all. You've got to forget trying to win an argument with facts and spreadsheets. The entire game. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're talking to a kidnapper or your boss, it's not about a logic. It's the art of understanding and influencing emotions. That's the key.
All right, Section 2, your Jedi mind tricks, the tactical empathy toolkit. Now, this all sounds great, right? But you're probably thinking, okay, how do I actually do any of this? Well, this is where it gets really practical. Voss lays out a whole toolkit of simple, super powerful techniques. And honestly, they kind of feel like Jedi mind tricks. They're all designed to build trust, get information, and the best part is anyone can learn to use them.
Okay, the first tool is so simple you're almost not going to believe it works. It's called mirroring. And no, this isn't about copying how someone's sitting. It's way simpler. All you do is repeat the last 1 to 3 important words they just said. That's it. It's like a little brain hack. See, we're naturally drawn to people who are like us. And when you mirror someone's words, their subconscious brain just lights up and thinks, hey, I like this person. They get it. Let me give you a perfect real-world example from the book. So imagine your boss comes over and says, hey, let's make 2 copies of all the paperwork. And you know this is a massive, totally pointless job. Instead of fighting back and saying, why? You just calmly use a mirror. You look at them with a curious tone and say, I'm sorry? 2 copies? And what happens is amazing. That simple question makes your boss pause and think. And more often than not, they'll actually reevaluate and solve the problem for you, saving you a ton of work. It's wild. All right, up next we have a technique called labeling. Voss calls this a shortcut to intimacy, and it's so powerful. All it is noticing an emotion the other person is feeling and just calling it out. You use gentle phrases like, it seems like, or it sounds like. So you might say, it sounds like you're worried about hitting that deadline. Now the key here is you're not saying you agree with them. You're just showing them that you see what they're feeling. You're validating their emotion. And just like with mirroring, this isn't just some clever trick. It's actually backed by brain science. There was this study at UCLA where they put people in brain scanners, and they found that when you put a name to an emotion, when you label it,
It actually calms down the emotional reactive part of the brain. The activity literally shifts to the more logical, rational part. So you are, in effect, de-escalating the situation with just a few carefully chosen words. You're making them calmer and more able to think clearly.
Moving on to section 3, the 2 magic words, redefining success. So, okay, you're doing all this stuff. You're mirroring, you're labeling, you're building this great connection. But what are you actually aiming for? What's the finish line? Now, for years, every negotiation book on the planet said the goal was to get the other person to say yes. But Voss argues that's completely wrong. The 2 words you really want to hear are something else entirely. And, think about it for a second. How many times have you said yes to someone just to get them to leave you alone? Yes can be a total counterfeit. It can mean, I'll think about it, or it could just mean, ugh, please stop talking. But when you hear someone say, that's right, that's gold. That's the breakthrough. That phrase means you have perfectly summed up how they feel and what they think. It means they feel 100% understood by you. And that changes everything.
So that's your new mission. The whole point of using tools like mirroring and labeling is to understand their side of the story so well that you can say it back to them, maybe even better than they could. And when you nail it, when you get that's right, that's when the magic happens. You've earned their trust, you've gotten their buy-in, and now, and only now, can you start actually solving the problem together.
All right, our final section. Never split the difference, why compromise is a dirty word. And this is where all of these ideas, the mirroring, the labeling, the hunt for that's right, all come together. It leads us right to the book's title and probably its most controversial point, the idea that compromise is actually a bad thing, that splitting the difference is something you should almost never do.
To really hammer this point home, Voss uses this perfect, if a little dark, example. You'd never say to a kidnapper, okay, you've taken 4 hostages. You know what? Let's just split the difference. You give me 2 and we'll call it even. It sounds completely insane, right? Because it is. And his argument is that when we compromise in any negotiation, we're doing the same thing on a smaller scale. We're just looking for an easy, lazy way out that probably makes nobody happy, all just to avoid a little conflict.
Now, obviously, most of us aren't negotiating for hostages, but the beauty of this stuff is that it works everywhere. Think about it. When you're asking for a raise, that's a negotiation. Buying a car, negotiation. Trying to get your kids to eat their vegetables? Oh, that is definitely a negotiation. Anytime you want something from another person, these tools give you a huge advantage. It's like a secret psychological toolkit for your everyday life.
So really, the book leaves all of us with a really powerful challenge. It asks this question. What could you actually gain if you stopped compromising? What would happen if, in your next big conversation or disagreement, you just stopped trying to meet in the middle? And instead, you put all of your energy into just understanding where they're coming from, understanding them so well that they finally look at you and say, that's right. You might find you don't just get a better outcome. You might actually build a stronger connection. So the question is, what could you gain